רבי נחמן מברסלב כך אומר, לא להתייאש, אסור להתייאש. אם הגיע זמן קשה, רק לשמוח יש, רק לשמוח יש.
Tonight, Bezrat Hashem, we're beginning a brand new discourse, Torah 33, section 1. And tonight's lesson is entitled In Peace with Yourself. Discourse 33, it's one of my favorites because it gives you such calm and such inner happiness. And this is what Rabbi Nachman, he's the master of happiness, the master of calm, and the master of Emunah. So we're going to learn that until people discover how to find peace within themselves, then all the amenities in the world won't satisfy them. It's like King Solomon said, "Nefesh lo timaleh," the soul can't be satiated. What do you mean that the soul can't be satiated? The soul can't be satiated by physical and material amenities. It needs something else. And this is what we're talking about. And this is the way tonight to find true, lasting inner tranquility. Okay, so Rabbi Nachman begins by quoting a verse in Psalms that we learned in our lesson, Psalm 34, verse 13. And he says, King David says, who is the person who desires life, who loves days of seeing good, who desires life? This is the Chafetz Chaim, Rabbi Yisrael Meir Kagan, who wrote the famous book about guarding our tongues. He called it the Chafetz Chaim, named after this particular passage, because it desire life. It's one way you desire life, then you speak good about other people, don't speak bad about other people. But even more than that, it's about yourself. You feel good about yourself. Here's how to feel good about yourself. So Rabbi Nachman teaches us. He starts off, and if you're following along in the Hebrew, we'll go in the Hebrew and then translate it to English. Haklal hu shetzarich levakesh shalom. Rabbi Nachman says the general rule is, first of all, if a person wants to find inner peace, he has to seek peace. In other words, a person can't seek strife in the world and add to derision and strife and arguments and dissension in the world and then expect to be innerly peaceful. And so many people don't understand that. They take sides and they're vehement about what they believe in. Okay, that's fine. But you have to do it, seek peace in the world. Find a way to make peace in the world, to bring peace in the world, because without that, you can't be peace within yourself. Sheyeh shalom ben Yisrael, sheyeh shalom l'chol adam b'midotav. He says, he's talking about three levels of peace. We have the level of peace with the whole world, and peace within our own people, and peace within ourselves. And there's really a fourth level that we're concerned with. The fourth level is peace with Hashem. That people inside, they don't believe in Hashem's perfect divine justice. They think that maybe Hashem is giving them a difficult time, and they're not at peace with Hashem. So a person that's not at peace with Hashem, he or she can't have Emunah, because in order to have Emunah, it's what we taught in our book, the 3 words of Emunah, that a person has to know that Hashem is doing everything for the best. Hashem is a loving Father, and Hashem will always do everything for the best, even if we don't understand. Now, the way to understand that is for Hashem, briefly, imagine that there are two people. This is an example we bring in our book, The Trail of Tranquility. There are two people, and they're both in the internal ward in the hospital, and they both have the same exact 9 stitches in their abdomen. One is miserable, and the other is happy as a lark. Okay, well, the one is miserable. What happened to him? He was walking in Central Park, and all of a sudden, some thug came and stabbed him in the abdomen, and took his wallet and took his credit cards and another couple of dozen cash. And he doesn't understand why. He doesn't understand why he deserved it. Doesn't understand what he's doing. But the guy next to him, he's got the same exact 9 stitches in his abdomen, and is suffering the same. If you put him on a pain meter, his physical pain is the same thing. But while the first person is miserable, the second person is happy as a lark. Why is the second person happy as a lark? He had an emergency appendectomy. And a couple of minutes before that, appendix would have exploded, and his body would have been full of toxins. And the internist, the surgeon, he really saved him. He saved him. So he's happy as a lark. He's happy. He's like, yeah, he's got pain. He knows he's got pain, but he knows why he's suffering the pain. So the first person, if the first person knew that maybe he did something to incur a heavenly death sentence, but they got a plea bargain, and Hashem is merciful, and Hashem said, let him get away with with a week in the hospital and they'll lose $400 and he's got to transfer his credit cards, all the headache of reporting his credit cards, getting new credit cards. Okay, but he's got his life. If he knew that this was a plea bargain and really a sweetening of a stern judgment, then he would be happy also. It's like the second person understands what's happening. This is what Rabbi Nachman says. We have to have the emunah, the spiritual awareness, the dot, to understand. Once we have this understanding and we realize that there's no difference between something seemingly good or something seemingly bad, it's all from Hashem, and it's all for our best, and we're happy about it. It's a person that eats for the health of his body. He'll eat something that might be bitter but very, very healthy, and he's happy because it's healthy for the body. But people that just want the sweet, they'll eat sweets, and the sweets are terrible for their body. So it's people in this life that they want just the sweets, and then life is just sweets. But if a person just looks for the sweets, ends up in diabetes, losing his teeth, spending a lot of money at the dentist. And this is a lack of spiritual awareness. Rabbi Nachman wants to give us in Torah 33 the spiritual awareness that we could take wherever we go, and we could be happy whatever we do. So he says like this, the general principle is a person has to look for peace. What does it mean, look for peace? Look for peace with everyone in the world, and look for peace. If a person doesn't want the peace, then okay, you can't do it. You can try your best. But if the person wants to kill you, okay, move aside. That's not your problem. Okay, don't feel bad that you can't make peace with a Hamas terrorist that wants your blood. Okay, you can't do. Move aside. We have to find peace with whoever tried to bring peace, and certainly peace within our own people, because the intramural strife, this was the destruction of the Holy Temple. Now we're in the 9 days, a few days before Tisha B'Av. We have to remember this all the time. And the biggest tragedy is people forget this. And they're still making the same mistakes that they made 1,958 years ago, or 2,000 years ago, that led up to the destruction of the temple. But even more so, we have to look for peace within ourselves, because it's concentric circles. Once we make peace with ourselves, we make peace with Hashem, then we're prepared to make peace with our fellow man. How a person that can't make peace with fellow man because he doesn't have peace within himself, with herself, so tries to take it on the other person. It's easy for them to blame the other person that they're not at peace with themselves. No, first of all, work on ourselves. This is what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to work on ourselves to bring ourselves to a point where we can find inner peace. We can find tranquility of the soul, no matter what's going on. If there's a war going around, the missiles are flying, the bullets are flying, the bombs are flying, doesn't matter. And this is very, very important, especially in Israel today, where it's the last more than a week now, just every minute. And any single minute, war could break out. Any single minute, massive bombing, even more than April 14th. Okay, but a person has to find the inner peace. I can't look on the outside. My inner peace doesn't depend, not on Khomeini and not on Iran, and certainly not on Hezbollah. It depends on me. It depends on my relationship to Hashem. This is what Rabbi Nachman is teaching us. And this is so important. This is why Rabbi Nachman said that his fire will burn until the coming of Mashiach, because this is the fire, his teachings, the teachings of Emunah, and the teachings of Emunah that give us his inner peace, because there is no inner peace. I'll go right to the end. Without Emunah, there's no inner peace. And that's why the best thing we're doing by learning Emunah every Wednesday night and by learning Likutei Moharan on Thursday night is it brings us the dividends of inner peace, and it is an entity that you can't buy anywhere. You cannot buy it. Rabbi Nachman is giving it to us, a gift on a platter. Okay, so here we go. What does it mean, inner peace? It means that a person shouldn't differentiate between his own character traits, of good character, bad character. Okay, this is a part of me. This is a part of me. All right, this part of me. The less positive, I'm going to try and improve it. And the positive, we're going to work on it, make it even stronger. But don't murder yourself. Like people that are unhappy and they're all the time persecuting themselves. Don't persecute yourself. Move forward. Move forward. No, but they're starting to persecute themselves. You can't persecute yourself. That's not what Hashem wants. That's not tshuva. That's not penitence, persecuting yourself. No, you look for the good points. When you look for your good points, and then the bad points, they immediately get uplifted by the good points. Okay, so a person becomes at peace with himself, and he's at peace with everything that happens in his life. That this is good and this is not good. This is from Hashem, and this is from Hashem. So I have to see if something is less desirable. Yeah, certainly desirable. Okay, you won the Irish lottery, desirable. Well, maybe that is not all the time desirable. Okay, because all of a sudden, let's just say you've had up till now peace. You come home with your weekly salary, your biweekly salary, your monthly salary, and that's fine. But all of a sudden, you won a couple million quid on the Irish lottery, and it's publicized. And now every 5 minutes, somebody's knocking on your door. And now you get telephones from long lost cousins. Oh, my brother. Oh, this, my best friends. Your friend from second grade. Oh, here you are. Yeah. Oh, why? Because he knows you won 8 million quid. Oh, he's got 8 million quid. Maybe I can enjoy some of the cream on the cake. This is so you can see it could happen that a person could do something that everybody said, oh, certainly great to win 8 million quid or $12 million, but not necessarily good. And then it turns around that somebody's in a car accident. Oh, that's terrible. Happened in Israel. Person was in a car accident in Beit Shemesh right here. And it was terrible. Brand new car. And there were 5 boys in the back. They had 5 boys. Okay, all the boys had the air mattresses at the immediate camp. They all came out. The youngest boy, the 7-year-old boy, he came out with a concussion. So the car was total loss. And the car didn't have 100 kilometers on it yet. But that first outing, the car got sideswept by a truck and knocked out and flipped over a couple of times. Well, the little 7-year-old boy had a concussion, and they rushed him to Bellison Hospital in Petach Tikva, right outside of Tel Aviv. And lo and behold, they discover a malignant brain tumor, relatively new, but growing very, very fast. Okay, so Hashem made this car accident and destroyed the car, but they discovered the brain tumor, made emergency surgery on the little boy, and he was saved, and he came out completely clean. And the neurologist, the neurosurgeon said, if that tumor would have gone unsuspected, for another 2 weeks, the little boy would probably have blurry vision and then go through an optometrist, what's going on with him. By the time they'd figured that it was a neurological problem, it would have been too late. But this is what Hashem did. Hashem knew that there was a problem. And so Hashem took it, Hashem solved the problem. So we see even something that is seemingly problematic, even if it looks terrible. Car accident, brand new car destroyed. It's all for the best category. There's no exception. The only thing is that we have our flesh and blood sense. We don't understand how it's all for the best. But that doesn't mean it's not all for the best. It's all for the best. So that means that a person, Rabbi Nachman says, okay, prerequisite for inner peace is not differentiating between things good. Everything is from Hashem and everything is good. And whether it's experiencing good times or less good times. And King David says that too in Psalm 56. What does King David say in Psalm 56? Okay, don't differentiate between the good times and the bad times. How does King David say it? He says, Bashem halel davar, belokim halel davar. Last night, we learned at Amunah Hour that Hashem, the ineffable name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, this is the name of mercy. This is the name of divine mercy. And the Shem Elokim is the name of stern judgment. So whether Hashem appears as a merciful God, and whether Hashem appears as a stern judge, it's the same Hashem. It's the same Father in heaven. Aspect. And whatever the same Father in heaven is doing everything for the best. Even when Hashem does something difficult in our lives, maybe it's a wake-up call to get closer to him. And if Hashem does a wake-up call, a person can walk off the cliff and be far away from him. So it's all for the very best. We don't differentiate. We don't differentiate whether it's Hashem or whether it's Okim. This is a lesson from King David. We continue on in the Hebrew. Okay, so how can a person find Hashem, whether in the good times or whether in the seemingly bad times? Rabbi Nachman says, by means of Torah. Why? Because Torah is called peace. To find peace in ourselves, Torah is peace. Like King Solomon said in the 3rd chapter of Proverbs, that all its paths are peace. This we say at the Eitz Chaim prayer when we return the Torah to the Ark. On Shabbat, they said on Monday, on Thursday, whenever we return after reading the Torah, return to the Ark, and we say, it's it's a tree of life for all that cling to it. Quoting King Solomon in Proverbs, that all its paths are paths of peace. So by learning Torah, that wherever we learn Torah, it takes us to peace in the soul. A person learns Torah, has peace in the soul right away. A person might say people can't understand the sublime pleasure of opening up a Gemara, a cup of tea, and just immersing yourself with Hashem, or whether it's just closing the door and opening up a book of Psalms, immersing yourself with Hashem. That's a Torah because it'll bring you to peace. So Rabbi Nachman continues, and there's another way also. A Torah is one way to find peace. Another way to find peace is when you have a connection to the tzaddikim, to our righteous spiritual leaders, because our righteous spiritual leaders, they're also called the covenant of peace, because they guard the covenant and they bring peace into the world. They don't bring strife into the world, they bring peace into the world. So when a person is connected both to the Torah and connected to the true tzaddikim, to the real spiritual guides, then it finds peace. Finds peace because your spiritual guide will help you find peace. This is what Rabbi Nachman is doing for us right now. He's helping us to find peace within ourselves. Once we find peace within ourselves, we'll find peace on outside in the whole world. And this changes our life dramatically. This is the beautiful thing about Torah 33. Okay, so a person, Rabbi Nachman says, the great thing is not only can a person be a person with himself, a person can be at peace with fellow man. And what's the great thing, especially learning that now during the 9 days? Once we're at peace with each other, we uproot the core cause for the destruction of the Holy Temple. Once that's uprooted, we can bring down and rebuild the Holy Temple. And Hashem will give us Mashiach. And this is the wonderful thing about that. Okay, so we continue on. And now it's the second section. Rabbi Nachman says, you must know, Shemlo kol haaretz kvodo. You have to know that there is no void, there is no time, there's no millimeter, no square micron in the world without Hashem's presence. No such thing. There is nowhere without Hashem's presence. Even where you see the most evil, it can't exist without Hashem's presence. Okay, Hashem's presence is highly constricted there. It's very much concealed, but nothing can exist without Hashem. Hashem is everywhere. Like the Zohar says in Aramaic, that there is no place, like I said, square micron, no place in the universe that is devoid of Hashem. Hashem is everywhere. Again, in Aramaic, Rabbi Nachman's quoting the Zohar that says that Hashem fills the entire universe and Hashem turns the entire universe. Hashem rotates, he operates the entire universe. Let's take about, wait a second. Person say, okay, wait a second. Maybe if I had the luxury of being able to sit, learn Torah all day long with a nice air-conditioned room and a cup of tea, okay, I could be peace. But I got to be out there knocking out a living with in a stock market or with a dog-eat-dog world and with these cruel nations. Rabbi Nachman says even someone that has to deal within the nations, among the people, nations, not such a nice place. Okay. And he says, I can't serve Hashem because of this negative environment there. Remember, says, okay, well, we're going to check that. If that is a legitimate claim, he says a person's coming and the person's complaining that he or she can't serve Hashem because they're in a dark place. Okay, let's see. So Rabbi Nachman continues. כי כבר גלו לנו חכמים זיכרון לברכה, שבכל דברים גשמיים, בכל לשנות העכו"ם, יכול למצוא בהם אלוקות. Rabbi Nachman brings an amazing principle. Anything you see in all the languages of the nations, we say our language is the holy tongue, it's the tongue of the Torah, the tongue of the Bible. Okay, the classical Hebrew, we're not talking about modern Hebrew, we're talking classical Hebrew. Okay, but all the other languages, they lack holiness. I'll give you an example. One of the biggest challenges in translating Torah texts into English, you got a lot of mileage in that, is there are so many words in classical Hebrew that are spiritual expressions that the English language does not have, because a language expresses a culture. For example, And the Eskimos, in their language, they have 40 different words for snow. There's a word for powdery snow, and there's a word for wet snow, and there's a word for heavy snow, and there's a word for snow that's good to eat. And okay, 40 different words. And the Cherokees and the Cherokee language, they have 28 or 30 different words for a horse. A young horse, an old horse, a work horse, a riding horse. Each horse, we have a different adjective for horse. The word is horse. They have a separate word for horse. Why? Because the horse was so much a part of their society. The same thing in Hebrew. In Hebrew, we have a word, for example, called bitul. Bitul means self-nullification, but that's not that. Bitul in English means canceling. Like if you cancel a check. Okay, and modern Hebrew say vatel check. You when they call up the bank and you cancel a check, or you cancel an appointment. That's bitul, but not in classical Hebrew. Bitul means where a person cancels his or her ego in face of Hashem's presence, which means self-nullification. Not self-nullification that a person is down on himself. Heaven forbid, but a person completely lets go of his or her ego in order to absorb divine light, because the ego is like an iron curtain in face of divine light. In English, there's no word for that. No word for that. See, I'd come up with this I translate the best I could, self-nullification. But it's not the same as a simple word, bitul. Many other words like that in spirituality that they just lack in English. For example, the word dot. Very simple word, dot. Literally, modern Hebrew is knowledge. In classical Hebrew, it means spiritual awareness. This is when a person has the emunah, that he could see things, he or she could see things in the world and understand Hashem's presence. That is called dot. That is called, it's a divine invoked spiritual awareness. There's no such word like that in English. Spiritual cognizance, spiritual awareness. Spiritual awareness is I invented that term for true tranquility. You never heard that term. Invented it for das. Little simple three-letter word in classical Hebrew. No translation in English. No word in English. Okay, so we see this is the difficulty. But what does Rabbi Nachman say? Rabbi Nachman says, if we look hard enough, even you see these two Chinese merchants haggling about the price of rice. If you listen close enough, and in Mandarin Chinese, you could find the holiness in that Mandarin Chinese. If you see two Moroccan merchants arguing about the price of cinnamon and listen to what they're talking about, you can hear, you can see, you could find, if you look for Hashem, you could find Hashem everywhere. Because without Hashem, there can't be a spice market in Morocco, and there can't be a rice market in China. It's all Hashem. Hashem is wherever we go. It is all Hashem. You can find Hashem everywhere. And Baruch Hashem, that's why today, one of my biggest joys in life is we have groups of Noahides in Hong Kong, groups of Noahides in Singapore. And you can see that this is teaching based on Torah 33. You can find Hashem anywhere, wherever you are, whoever you are. You can find Hashem. You can find Hashem. And this is what Rabbi Nachman is telling us. But in all the foreign languages, you can find holiness in all the foreign languages. Because without Hashem, they can't talk. There's no language. There's nothing. The ability to put a thought into words, this comes from Hashem. And it doesn't matter whether it's Mandarin Chinese or whether it's Swahili or whether it's Scandinavian or Portuguese or Spanish or French or German or whatever. It all has, so a person can't say, oh, I'm at work in Frankfurt, Germany all the time, speaking German all day long. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Wherever you are, you can find Hashem. You could find, when you find Hashem, you find peace, because Hashem is peace. Hashem, the word in classical Hebrew for peace is shalom. And we're not allowed to say shalom in the bathroom. If you're in, for example, you go to the mikveh, the public bath, and your buddy comes in, you can't say shalom. You're not allowed to say shalom in the mikveh, because shalom is Hashem's name. You're not allowed to say Hashem's name where there are people that are undressed in a public bathhouse. You can't do that. You could say hi. This was on the outside, we say shalom. We don't say hi and bye. We say shalom. Okay, but in the inside, in a bathhouse, in the mikveh, no, you don't say shalom, because the shalom is Hashem's name. So that's where wherever you find Hashem, you find peace. There cannot be peace without Hashem. What there can be temporary peace, which is based on personal interest. And that's why people have peace treaties, and they hold a peace treaty as long as it benefits their personal interests. But a true peace treaty is a connection to Hashem. And to have a peace treaty within our own soul, to be peace with ourselves. Don't look for a peace treaty with other people until you make peace with yourself. That's what Rabbi Nachman is teaching us. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you are, what you are. And this for the whole world. The whole world doesn't matter your nationality, then nothing. And this is why Emunah is for the entire universe. And if the whole universe would learn Torah 33, we could begin having peace in the world. And instead of living under when the next minute, what's going to happen the next minute? What's going to happen? The world explode the next minute. This is the way we're living right now. Why? Because we have this lack of spiritual awareness, that lack even within our government, within the IDF top brass, I don't want to say bad things about anybody, but that's why we try and yell to the top of our lungs all the time and devote our lives to spreading one word, Emunah. Emunah, find Hashem, bring Hashem in your life. That's all. That's all. No, it's not about religion. It's about peace in the world. It's about peace within yourself. And this is the epitome. But look, this is the purpose of the entire universe that Rabbi Nachman is teaching in Torah 33. That if a person is doing something in the world and it's not adding to peace within yourself or to peace within the world, then you're missing something. You're missing something, even though that's the difference between an Israeli soldier and Hamas or Hezbollah. Talk to the Israeli soldier. Yeah, he just wants to be peace, wants to go home. He'd be happy. Let there be a peace treaty tomorrow. And no, then that's Hezbollah, Hamas. No, we're not going home until we kill every single Jew. Come on. So if you want to find where the truth is, look where the peace is. Because the peace is truth. The truth is shalom, shalom and emet. This is what also that King David says in Psalms, emet v'shalom yachdav, that the husband and wife are the truth and peace. And it's funny, truth is also Hashem's name. Truth, if we take the Hashem's holy name, Ekyeh, Aleph, Hey, Yud, Hey, Ekyeh, Asher, Ekyeh, this is the name he revealed himself to Moses on Mount Sinai, and we take the numerical value of that name, it's 441. And 441 is Aleph, Mem, and Taf. Emet. Emet is Hashem's name. Shalom is Hashem's name. Emet and Shalom, whenever you look for Hashem, wherever you find Hashem, you find peace and you find truth. So this is anywhere in the world, if you're looking for Hashem, in order to find peace and truth, and not that a lot of people, they take their own personal agenda and they call that truth. That's not truth, especially if it leads to strife. Okay. But the only truth leads to peace. Where you look at something that's peaceful. This is what King Solomon tells us in the 3rd chapter of Proverbs, Shalom, that any path you take of the Torah, it leads to peace. And so we connect to Torah, we connect to Hashem, and we connect ourselves to peace. And so Prophet Nehemiah says in chapter 9, Vata machayat kulam. So Hashem, you vitalize everyone. You give the life force to everyone. So there can't be people in the Congo. There can't be people in Singapore. There can't be people in Burma. There can't be people in the United States or in the UK without you, Hashem, because you give life to everyone. All comes to Hashem. And if people, it's going to be big surprise. All the people, with the woke agendas and the progressive agendas, and they deny Hashem, and then they get into the world. And the first 2 things they hear before they get into the divine courtroom, Ani Hashem. And there's 2 words, the holy tongue that they learn, I am Hashem. And they are so embarrassed that they lived their whole lives in one big lie. This is the beginning of purgatory. Purgatory is not fire like a fire, we know fire. It's the fire of embarrassment. When you get caught, heaven forbid, lying, you get caught doing something wrong. You get caught doing something that you really are not proud of. Your face goes on fire. That's the fire. The fire is a purgatory when the neshama is so embarrassed. The neshama, it burns itself up. It extinguishes itself up. That's from 2 words. Ani Hashem. When Hashem reveals himself. And that's why the Gemara says that when the moment the soul leaves the body. It gives a scream that you can hear from one end of the universe to the other end of the universe, all over the Milky Way galaxy. That's small. Get in the super galaxies. The soul gives a scream that can be heard in all the worlds, heavenly worlds. I want to go back. I want to go back. No, it's too late. It's like the ball. When the referee blows the whistle at the last second of the 90th minute, the football game is over. No, if you 1 second later you score a goal, it's no good. That's got to be done within the 90 minutes. We have an allotment of time in this world, and that's where we could score, get close to Hashem. Person, no, I want to go back. No, now you know the truth. It's too late. You could have found the truth in all the years you were in the world, but you don't want to find the truth. You don't want to find the truth. You wanted to go with something political expedience or social giving into this social pressure. That's not truth. So we ask Hashem, where is Hashem coming into these low places? Really low places in the world. Rabbi Nachman explains, Levad she'achlut ve'elokut, azeh, sham b'tzimtzum gadol b'me'ut. Even in the lowest places, Hashem's light is there, but it is a very, very tiny dose of Hashem's light. It's there. But were it not for the tiny dose of Hashem's light, even that evil could not exist. He says, you have to understand, Hashem constricts himself in many, many limitless, infinite constrictions. And it's each spiritual level, each constriction is spiritual level. Each of us are on a separate spiritual level, depending on the amount of divine light we bring into our soul. Okay, the amount of divine light means the closeness that we bring ourselves to Hashem. So as we get closer to Hashem, as we get more divine light, we get closer to Hashem. And this is our spiritual level. The closer we are to Hashem, the more we get to know Hashem, the more we understand, the more we have spiritual awareness, the more we have an insight into what's going on in the world. Why? Because at every higher level, there is less constriction of Hashem's light. You're getting more of Hashem's light. And the more of Hashem's light, that Hashem is concealing himself less and less and less. That he says, my beloved son, my beloved daughter, when they close to me, fine, come closer. It's like when you're far away from the bonfire in the winter, it's cold. The closer you get to the fire, the warmer you feel. The same thing with Hashem. The closer you get to Hashem, the warmer your soul feels, the more you feel at peace with yourself. This is Rabbi Nachman explaining us. And then he says, Mireshit, Machshava, that Hashem's light comes from the highest point of godliness to the lowest point of the klipot, the spiritual chastas, the place of unholiness, because you can't have the unholiness exist without Hashem either. Okay, b'chol ma shemishtadel yoter mitamtzem yoter lamata elokut merubah sham b'malbushim rabim yoter. So what happens? Rabbi Nachman explains, the lower Hashem's light goes, the more it's concealed. It's like a different, a Purim costume. The more costumes it's wearing, it's covered. Another layer of clothes, another layer of clothes, another layer of clothes, until completely hidden. So the more Hashem constricts his light, then the more he's concealed. And this secret, our sages, may they rest in peace, they discovered. And they opened us an opening for understanding. That our sages, and in this particular Rabbi Nachman, he opened up a understanding for us that within any material or physical entity, there's a Shem. Okay, Shem is sure utter spirituality, but you can't have a body without a soul, otherwise it doesn't live. So even to take our flesh and blood bodies, what keeps us alive? The soul within us. What's the soul? The soul is a godly spark. It's all godliness. You take to the pure soul, before the soul gets contaminated with bodily appetites and whatnot, the body tries. We talked about in 13 Principles of Munah, we talked about upward influence and downward influence, whether the person is influenced from holiness from the top, from the holy soul in the brain, or from the bottom, from the evil inclination that's in the liver. It depends which sphere of influence. Go back to our very first lesson in the 13 Principles of Munah. We explain this, but Hashem is everywhere. Hashem is everywhere, even in the thickest material thing. You look at something, you can't see Hashem. Can't see Hashem. You would look at some in a cow barn. Where's Hashem? Oh, Hashem is very much there in the cow barn, just like he's everywhere else in the world. So now Rabbi Nachman is giving us an example. First, say, wait a second, where is Hashem in the foreign languages, with the African language? Yeah, I said, do you know what? And Rabbi Nachman says, you know where the word tefillin comes? That tefillin comes where he says like this, tefillin comes from two different words. One in Coptic language. The Coptics, they were from Ethiopia, and the Coptics, the language, tat in Coptic language means two. Tat in Coptic means two. And then in Zulu, an African language, there is pat, which it also means two. And that's the word totfot in Hebrew. Rashi explains it comes from two African words that come together. Why is Hashem making in the Torah a word totfot? We call it tefillin. What's totfot? It doesn't mean the frontlets of it. We call it tefillin. Why did Hashem do this? And Rashi explains, Hashem is showing us, it's not Rashi, it's a Gemara Menachot at page 34, but Rashi also explains that Rashi mentions the Gemara when he comments on that is Exodus chapter 13, when it talks about Kadeshli, the first two parshas in the Tefillin, Totfot, the word Totfot, and he brings it that the Tat comes from African, and Tat comes from Coptic, and Pat comes from African. Why is Hashem doing this? Hashem is showing us, says Rabbi Nachman, that there's not enough words in the Hebrew language. Hashem is showing us even the most holy thing we have, our tefillin, it's called totfot, that Hashem made this word from two African words to show that even in darkest Africa, where no civilization, people don't know where, maybe you could have a tribe that the human beings have never stepped in that part of darkest Africa, the Titzel, Hashem is right there. They don't know what a knife and fork looks like. Okay, but they've got in their language, they can't have a life without Hashem. They can't have vitality without Hashem. So you talk about, they use an example of deep in wherever, some jungle in Central Africa where nobody's ever been. And in their place, Africa is a big continent. Africa is a big continent. I know, just traveling through safaris in South Africa, and people in South Africa is well known, but South Africa, you go for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles, don't see a single human being, and see all kinds of Hashem, and even all the more so, the jungle in Central Africa. Here, but we find that in the African language, there's holiness. And Rabbi Nachman makes an effort to bring this. He brings it from the Gemara, brings it from Rashi. So see, don't say there's anywhere in the world that without holiness. Don't say that there's any language or any culture that can't come to holiness. Oh, you can come to holiness, but have to put aside all the idolatry, and have to put aside all the warfare, and put aside everything. Okay, so he says, Zemevi Yerushalmi is now quoting the Jerusalem Gemara, and Tractate Tanit, page 81, the Jerusalem Gemara. So someone says, hey, where is your God? Okay, tell him, my God is in the marketplace in Rome. What do you mean a marketplace in Rome? Marketplace in Rome, where they had all this Roman theology and all these false gods and this and that. Yeah, that even there, Elika Mesil, the Torah says that my God called out from Seir. Seir is Edom. Edom is the land of Esav. Esav is the great-grandfather of Rome. Okay, so you see, you want to find out with Esav in language in Rome. Go to Rome, and you could find Hashem. And say, Jerusalem, okay, it's a no-brainer, you're going to find Hashem there. But no, it doesn't matter. Don't say that because you live in a country with idolatry, or a country that's seemingly far away from Hashem, you can't find Hashem. You can find Hashem anywhere. All you have to do is look for it. And the advantage of looking for Hashem and finding Hashem is you find inner peace. Rabbi Nachman says, Nimsa, Adam okay, first, as a result, in conclusion, the person that asks you, where do I find Hashem? If a person says, oh, where's Hashem? Rabbi Nachman says, for certain, he is in a quicksand. He's in mud up to his neck, and he can't see Hashem's light. Because Hashem's light, he would say, where's Hashem? Because a person that lives with Hashem feels Hashem every heartbeat, every breath. I'm not run myself. I'm not connected to a plug in the wall. It's all from Hashem. And he lives with Hashem, and he thanks Hashem for everything. I know that every word coming out of mouth, that if Hashem would, heaven forbid, turn off my switch, boom, that's it. The lesson's over. Every single word's Hashem. And everything word that we know that the Zoom, the net, the broadcast, the web, like that, it's all Hashem. Every single moment, Hashem. Hashem is with us, Hashem right now, and the bandwidth, and everything comes from Hashem. So Hashem, somebody says, where's Hashem? Ooh, my brother, my sister, wow. I feel sorry for you. And here, take my hand. I'm going to try and pull you out of the mud. Even if I get a little bit, okay, we'll take a shower afterward, but I'm going to try and pull you out of the mud. Rabbi Nachman says, he's crushed down there in the mud of the klipot, the mud of the spiritual impurity. Why? As soon as he says, where's Hashem? He takes himself out of the community, and he puts himself aside that he doesn't hold by Hashem. Where's Hashem? And this is a denial of God. Shema, Eichan Elokecha, because he said, where is your God? Where is your God? This is like the wicked son in the Haggadah. And he says, your God. He's talking about your God, not my God. It's about our God. Okay, tell us about our God. He says, where's your God? He says, where's your God? He's showing that he doesn't hold by it. He doesn't believe in it. Okay, so he's taken himself out, and it's already, hey, a person like that cannot be at peace with himself. Never be pseudo-intellectual, but he's going to be very belligerent and very militaristic about what he believes. And anybody that doesn't give homage to him, bow down to him, that's what you can see all these non-Emunah judges and the non-Emunah courts that got egos up to here, and you can't say a single word of criticism, right away they take it personal. Why? Because there's no peace. There's no truth. And they think that they judge the world, not Hashem. So nidmelo. Rabbi Nachman says, nidmelo, shem komo, en sham Elokim. Got a problem right here in non-Emunah Israel. They think that in their place, there's no God. That's why that just this week, the Tel Aviv municipality, as if they didn't learn a thing from the war on October 7th, that right before the war, the liberal municipality, that their gay parades are allowed, but you can't have Yom Kippur prayers in public because they separate between men and women, and we can't have gender separation. Come on. This is the land of Israel. And so they did. They outlawed. Gay parades are welcome. And the Muslim prayers, no, they don't do the Muslims. They don't pray men and women together, completely separate. But they don't dare. The Muslims, they decide to play in a public park. Okay, they do. They go in a public park in Tel Aviv. They won't say a thing. But when Jews in their own country come together, this is the showing what Rabbi Nachman was talking about prophetically. You have a place even where a Jew denies his own God. Come on. That's no peace. And I can understand why there's no peace in the land of Israel. We're trying to bring peace, so much peace, but we're emunah. But until there is emunah, and so pray to Hashem, open up everybody's heart that should have emunah. Even in, this is going to be politically incorrect and improper, but if we look even in a gay parade that's going against Torah, what is Hashem doing? That all the gays in the LBGT, ABCD, Hashem is beating their heart. Hashem is giving them the vitality to march. Why is he doing it? I don't know enough divine. We ask that for Hashem. We don't understand. But even if one of them would ask, "Where's Hashem?" Hashem says, we're with you, because you are deep down in the klipot. Okay, maybe on the 50 levels of holiness, where number 50 is Hashem, and number 0 is the bottom of the klipot. It's the entrance to purgatory, and there may be at between 1 and 0, with 1 foot in 0 already. But even there, even in purgatory cannot exist without Hashem. That Hashem gives the life force to purgatory. Even in the bottom of the most deepest impurity, you can find Hashem. Because he revives everything. As Rabbi Nachman says. And this is what we say, Vatam Chayat Kulam. We say in our prayers every day, Hashem, you revive everything. You give life to everything. No matter where you are, you find that spark of godliness, no matter what your spiritual level is. Don't say, I'm not in Israel. Don't say, I'm not the son of a great Torah scholar. Don't say, I'm not. No, you could be a wagon driver in South Ukraine. You could be it doesn't matter. You plow with an ox in Indonesia. Shem is right there. You look for Shem. Just look for Shem. You can find him. And wherever you are, you can come back to Hashem with complete tshuva. The word tshuva, it doesn't mean penitence. It means returning to Hashem. So when you return to Hashem, you take your soul out of the spiritual impurities and bring it back to Hashem. Ki lo rachokay michi. Rabbi Nachman says it's not far from you. And Rabbi Nachman takes this right from the Torah. Lo b'shamayim. The Torah says in Deuteronomy, it's not up in the sky. It's right here. Ki karov alecha adavar ma'od. Because it's very close to you. The only thing is, if a person is deep down in spiritual impurity, there's a lot of costumes, a lot of embellishments, and you can't see. Hashem is concealed. But if you look for him, you can find him. If you don't look for him, you won't find him. If a person doesn't look for Hashem, he or she will never find them. Rabbi Nachman said what we mentioned before, that the higher, the closer Hashem gets to Hashem, the higher person goes, then the more he gets close to Hashem, and the more he's privy to divine light. This is the advantage of getting closer to Hashem. By getting closer to Hashem, by strengthening our emunah, and we understand emunah doesn't make sense, because emunah only begins where logic leaves off, because emunah is divine logic. But the Arizal, that tonight is already after sundown in Israel, tonight is his yahrzeit, the 5th of Av. The Arizal, the father of Kabbalah, he says that the epitome of knowledge is that we don't know a thing. Tachlit emunah shelo nida klal. So when we know that we don't understand nothing because we have human intellects, which is it's nothing. It's like bird seed, and plug into it with emunah takes us to divine intellect. So what emunah brings us to a point where Hashem gives us a divine intuition, and we could feel with our brains. Hashem uplifts our brains. First, we don't understand. We know it's there, and this is called in Kabbalah all makif. Hashem gives us an outside light, but as we go higher, that on the lower level, that the light was outside the surrounding light, it becomes internalized in our brain, and that's all pnimi. The internalized light is called Or Pnimi. The outside light that we know it's there, we feel it's there, that's Or Makif. And as we go higher and higher and higher, that the surrounding light, we internalize it more, and this takes us up this more divine light, more divine light. And this is what Rabbi Nachman says. The higher he goes, he gets closer to Hashem. And the better he gets to know Hashem. Because the higher he goes, the less the concealments. And the constriction becomes smaller. And he gets closer to Hashem. Now, this is the big advantage. The closer you get to Hashem, the more you get to know Hashem, the more you bring your soul close to Hashem, the more soul has gratification, and now you love your own soul. You love yourself. So if you want to love yourself, get close to Hashem. Baruch Hashem, we're going to hold up here. Next week, B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to continue. And meanwhile, everybody should have a week of love and inner peace and spiritual gratification, all your heart's wishes for the best.